Hey, you guys, just tuning in real quick to let you know that we're on the road today. I am broadcasting live from just outside of DFW and wanted to come on and just get ready for a oh my goodness Monday. So if you guys are tuned in from wherever you're tuned in from, we appreciate you. I've got some special guests who's going to be joining us today, and we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to share their thoughts about all the stuff that happened this weekend. Let me give you a quick rundown before we get our first guest on. Obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks got back in the win column for the first time in the NBA Finals. Of course, they made it through the East all the way through the Eastern Conference Finals, got to the NBA Finals, and they found themselves down 2-0 0-2 to the Phoenix Suns, but they took care of that last night with a 120-100 win over the Phoenix Suns, and Giannis Antetokounmpo went off again for 41 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists. Chris Paul was held to 19-9 in the loss, and a lot of talk about that game and what it may have revealed about the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Phoenix Suns. Monty Williams made some decisions. Some say late in the game, I say early in the game, where he literally decided to pull out his starters, including Devin Booker, and live to fight another day. So we're going to see what happens on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Central, live on ABC. And then, of course, the Astros had a big win where they scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning. It was capped off by a 3-run home run by Jose Altuve to beat the New York Yankees 8-7. The Astros, of course, are going to be off for the All-Star break, and then they will be back on Friday when they visit the Chicago White Sox. That first pitch will be at 7:10. None of the Astros that were selected to the All-Star game as alternates are going to be in that game. They are all going to take time off for whatever reason. So, again, no Astro will be represented in the All-Star game this season. And then the Rangers lost to the A's 4-1. They're going to be back on Friday, and that will be in Toronto just after 6 o'clock Central. MMA, what about that fight with Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier? And, man, I tell you what, Conor McGregor, goodness. Hey, without further ado, let me get my guest on. She is joining me all the way from what I call the East-South. Dr. J, Jennifer Thibeaux. Doc, how you doing, first of all?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. I appreciate you making time for me today. It's been a long time. How things been going out there on over in that area?
Well, good. You know, I'm in Louisville. I have to say this right because the people here will like pounce on me because it's not Louisville. You know, that's the Texas, Louisiana in me wants to say that, but it's Louisville.
I grew up north of Louisville in Cincinnati, and we learned early on that it's not a Louisville Slugger, it's Louisville.
Yep. Louisville Slugger. Yep. That's right. Yep. So we've been here for about 10 days, although we dipped to Fort Wayne, Indiana to go hang out with Rod Woodson and his amazing youth camp. He's got, I think it's Hope for Football is his organization. So tons of kids came out, middle school, high school. Chris got a chance to get out there and do some coaching. So I think it's pretty cool. You know, the kids got coached by Rod Woodson and Chris Dishman. So that was pretty special just to watch, you know.
I bet it is. And again, those kids could not have any better coaches than those two right there.
I agree.
And I gotta tell you my Rod Woodson story. Every time I hear that name, I get shook. Okay. He ran hurdles at Purdue. I ran hurdles at Tulane.
Okay.
I swear he beat me by 6 hurdles. There's only 10 in the race. By the time I got done, he was taking a shower somewhere, man. I was like,
were you at the track meet where he hit every single hurdle and still won? Were you at that track meet? He knocked down every single
one of them
and still won the race.
And I'm thinking he's gonna slow down eventually.
No, he was destined for football. Not afraid to hit, obviously.
But that's all right. Please tell him somebody that he decimated back in the day said hello.
I sure will. I sure will.
So, Dr. J, I wanted to get you on because obviously you have a very strong connection to sports. You have a very strong connection to the business world. You have a very strong connection to just, a number of different things. A lot of folks don't know you're a broadcast journalist. You've hosted podcasts. You've been, the host of several different events and things like that, author, all of those things. We've seen a lot here recently in the sports community, especially surrounding ladies. Obviously, there's some big brouhaha going on at ESPN with two very, gifted and qualified ladies. And while it's disappointing that it happened, the fact that it's happening with who it's happening to, two of the up and coming names as well as established name. With when you talk about Rachel Nichols. Give me your thoughts about what you've seen and what you've heard and what you experienced yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, you are correct. Nichols is experienced. Maria Taylor, I love her to death for multiple reasons. It's hard when you see a story when it looks like two people are pitted against each other. However, let's look deeper into that story. Okay. I said, I really want to understand what Rachel Nichols was really trying to say, because if you just read a news story, then you may miss a whole lot, right? Yeah. The stories are going a lot of different directions. Rachel Nichols was talking about they wanted to move her from hosting for the NBA Finals and put her in the sideline reporter gig. So that's what they wanted to do. For NBA Finals and slot Maria Taylor in. So she was frustrated because she was being moved around. So that I don't care who you are, what color skin, what your gender, you're frustrated if you wanted to be in a slot that you're accustomed to and you're moved. So that's number one. But number two, I'm so sorry for my phone beeping.
No, it's
number
okay.
two, the real issue is the idea that, it wasn't about her movement. Her commentary was specifically about, well, obviously, and I'm paraphrasing. Obviously, she's being put in because now they want to put a Black woman in this slot. Right. Now, for people who don't know, Maria Taylor does college football, college volleyball, college men's basketball, college women's basketball, NBA, and NFL. Okay, so she is this juggernaut of knowledge. She jumps in and does literally exactly when I've taught broadcast to people, that's what you're supposed to do. Don't just pigeonhole yourself into knowing one sport because there's so few slots. Right. You need to know a bunch so they can grab you at any point in time. She is the blueprint for what I hope more broadcasters do, no matter their skin color, no matter their gender. Now, it was the 20 minutes that bothered me. It wasn't the short clips that bothered me, what she said. It was the conversation between her and the other gentleman. And they were literally downplaying diversity, Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Like, oh, we have to do it. They even threw in Me Too in there. I'm all tired of this stuff. Well, that tells me, number one, you've not bought into diversity, equity, and inclusion in your company. That's number one. That tells me ESPN has work to do to get the adoption of the concepts there. It's not enough to send people to a class. It's not enough to say, just stay quiet, because she says she's just trying to play nice. I don't need anybody to play nice. We need people to educate themselves and evolve and understand how these concepts play into a larger part of a better organization. They're outside the bubble trying to act like they're inside. Now, the last comment I will say and about Nichols is that she said she was upset that someone at ESPN actually leaked this footage, that it got passed around. I'm like, well, so this sounds like the good old boy days when you're mad because somebody broke the code and actually shared your honest, truthful comments.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. This is how I know that she's not being honest with herself. Because if you were, that wouldn't have been the first thing you would have said. You would have been mortified at the reflection of, wow, this is really the way I feel. And I've hurt somebody. The outside world wouldn't have even come into play. Should not have. It should have been on Maria Taylor. I'm going to flip for a second to Maria Taylor. I love that she did not respond.
Right.
You know this as well as I do. Number one rule of journalism, do not become the story.
Right.
Okay, don't become the story. Everybody else wants to make this the story. Again, football, volleyball, basketball, NFL, NBA. She doesn't need to be a story about someone else's inability to accept diversity, equity, and inclusion, the concepts and how they play out. She doesn't need to be a part of that. That's for Rachel. That's her process to go through. That's for ESPN to address.
Right.
Maria Taylor, she's good.
Yeah.
She is good on so many levels. Now, did you see that she just got this huge raise? Did you see that?
Yes.
Huge, right? 1 million, which is kind of a travesty that she was at 1 million, all things considered, for what she does, for as much as she's on the air. Based on the formula and based on the other people that are male that do the same amount of broadcasting, her salary should have been higher. So now she's been adjusted to 3 million. Correct. From 1 million to 3 million. And I think it's great, but it's difficult because it comes after things like this happen. And it's like, wow, you know, if you have a policy of diversity, equity, inclusion, the policy itself, the process of making sure that you are equitable in salaries, that should have happened. It shouldn't have taken embarrassment to do it. And I hate that. But, you know, that's where I stand. You know, I think ESPN has been going through a lot. And they've lost a lot of good talent, right? You know, look at this wonderful talent that's walked out the door, that they've allowed to walk out the door, and disproportionately walked out the door. So as you look at that, you have to understand that there is a tremendous amount of work that ESPN needs to do. I think they're committed to trying to do it. And hey, I'll offer my services because I really want to see success in front of the camera and behind the camera. You know, so anybody that's listening, if you want to do broadcasting, there's not just the in front of the camera roles. There are so many behind the camera roles and behind the mic roles, and those roles make decisions for a lot. And so we have to have decision makers in all places, and that's what kind of helps us get to a better diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Dr. J, this is exactly why I wanted to have you on the show today. We got Dr. J, Jennifer Thibeaux, joining us here on the lunch break. She's taught broadcast journalism. She has worked with major corporations in several different types of initiatives. So you literally know it from all aspects. You know it from, like you said, the behind the scenes. You know it from the educational standpoint. And you've experienced it yourself. And I think I'm with you. That's the part that concerned me, not the clip, but just the long-term discussion in totality, where it wasn't just your disappointment about changes to your own contract and your own responsibilities, but to immediately go to the diversity, the affirmative action. Like, that's the only reason why Maria Taylor, who with that resume that you've read, never mind that she played the game, never mind that she's been a gold medalist, never mind that she's excelled on the highest levels in everything that she's done, there's only way that she could be in that position is through some type of affirmative action or diversity inclusion process. Not that she earned it by merit, not that her meritocracy, it's not a nepotism situation. She didn't sleep her way to the top. Some of those, things that unfortunately are saddled with women who climb their way up the proverbial corporate ladder. That part really concerned me. And then, like you said, when you move into the fact that now you're tired of Me Too, you're tired of BLM, those things now are not a part of you. You're not an ally. You're just throwing those out so you can look like you are an ally and you are part of the. I can't stop being Black. Women who've been, assaulted can't stop being having been assaulted. So it gets to a bigger picture, and that's why I wanted to have you on today to kind of talk about some of that.
Well, what struck me is she acknowledged her own self and her journey that. Rachel Nichols, that she had to outwork everybody. But why do you think Maria Taylor didn't? I'm like, you actually can recognize your own tough journey, but then for Maria Taylor, she just got there. You think she got there because of you, Rachel? Right. That's, and again, I'm not bagging on her. I think we all have these unconscious bias that are built into the way that we grew up. You and I both had parents that went to segregated schools. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So our parents taught us some things about the world that the world is telling us a little different today, right? Because the world exists differently today.
Yeah.
People grew up in a different time. So we all have these small things that we must grow from, but we must be willing to do it. So again, it's just a sign that, some folks at high levels, obviously Rachel Nichols is a high level, they have not adopted the creed of diversity, equity, inclusion that you can read on ESPN's website, because if you did, you wouldn't say those things. They just wouldn't be a part of you.
Yeah. Let's do this, Doc. So obviously we've got young people that are trying to work their way up the corporate ladder. And now it's totally different than when you and I come up, because now you've got to be your own camera person. You got to be your own editor. You got to be your own talent. You got to get that story uploaded so that it can be on network if it's accepted, things like that. Sometimes people who are working their way up will settle for some things or maybe cut some corners. Back in the day, we used to talk about the audition couch. Stay off the audition couch. Whatever you do, don't compromise yourself by getting on the audition couch. But it's a lot of different stuff today. How do we get our young people to not get caught up in what Rachel got caught up in, and to stay out of some of those other gotcha areas in sports broadcast, journalism, media, you name it?
Well, the most important thing I think you can do is make sure you're talented. Okay, like that. And it seems like that seems obvious, but it's actually not. We're in an Instagram world where as long as I look the part, I am the part. And that's not, the idea of IG model. I'm like, an Instagram model. But you mean you just started an Instagram account? Now you put model on, now you're a model? Can I be an IG broadcaster?
I'm sorry.
That's like actually not how this is not how any of this works. And so there are so many tools out there that you can start to hone your skills. And so I tell everybody, every single person, I don't care if you're working in a company, you can be an intrapreneur, and you don't have to be an entrepreneur, you can be an intrapreneur. You need to not wait on someone to give you your next opportunity. Period. Okay, broadcasting alone. Look, I've started a private broadcast network for business that I only sell to businesses. You can't get it on Apple Podcasts. And guess what? In some respects, it pulls more revenue stream than I would have on a show that I would have done on Apple. And so there are so many different ways that people can get in practice. They have to be broadcasting every day. So many different ways that they can be doing it on their own. The tools are too inexpensive for you not to do it, but you've got to be doing it. You can't be like, oh, I thought they were going to give me that promotion. They didn't. So I sat there. No, look, you've got to have footage. You've got to get out there. My dad was the only African-American student broadcaster at USL. Now it's ULA in Lafayette, the Cajun. Okay. The only Black broadcaster. He started the first Afrocentric station for the college at the time. At the time, Muhammad Ali was banned from boxing and was touring colleges. When he toured colleges, he requested the African-American or an African-American broadcast student to interview him. When he got to USL, my father was the only one. So he got the opportunity to interview Muhammad Ali. My point to this is you've got to keep on pushing for what you want and keep practicing it. Even if it seems small in the beginning, not many people listened to his show, even though he was like the brother of a famous DJ in the area. He was still just a name, just a simple student. And he was a student of color. But he kept on doing his thing and honing his craft, and he got the opportunity of a lifetime while he was in college. And so people they can't sit by the sideline and expect the opportunity to come to them. That's why I see a Maria Taylor. She's the blueprint. She didn't play football, but she darn sure can talk about it. She can analyze it. She can host like nobody's business. Right. And so, and she's developed relationships, inside and outside. And that's going to be very important because there's not many hosts that are ESPN plus SEC network, the largest college network. And so, it's a smart play to continue to work. I don't care how small your broadcast is, your podcast. If no one's listening, continue to build. Sometimes when nobody's listening, that's good because you need practice. You don't need people listening, but you've got to go through the practice.
Yeah. Dr. Jennifer Thibeaux, Dr. J, we call her right here on the lunch break on Oh My Goodness Monday. And you and I have both worked in corporate America, with Fortune ones. I mean, Fortune 500, you name it. We work with them. Um, uh, I know people who have been able to work their way up the corporate ladder, even during downsizing, even during layoffs, even during cutbacks, you name it. And I'll never forget, I had a mentor tell me, you got two choices. You can either go ahead and let yourself to be downsized, or you can make yourself so valuable that there's no way that they can downsize you. Even if they create another position for you, you are that valuable.
That's right.
How do young people and even other folks in our industry, our business, what have you, take that credence, that credo, and say, hey, I've got to make myself valuable. I've got to create the opportunity. I'm not just, what do I bring to the table? Doggone it, I got my own table. What are you bringing to mine?
Absolutely. Well, being a problem solver is, I think, one of the biggest tools in your toolkit that you can have is to be a problem solver, because, pandemic, jobs were being lost, but new opportunities were being created. John Clifton in Gallup, he's the CEO and chairman of Gallup. He talked about that kids today are in school and we're preparing them for jobs that don't even exist yet. And that's the reality. There are jobs that don't even exist yet that people are going to be slotted in. So you have to be forward thinking and how can I wiggle and how can I move? But being that problem solver is going to be so important. I'm going to tie that into sports. Okay. So now you have the name, image, license rights, right? For college athletes. It sounds phenomenal, right? And you hear a few of these, signed to $2 million, signed to $4 million. There's 5 athletes that I know of right now that have done that. 5. How many college athletes actually exist? Thank you. Thousands. So the idea that we hear the news story of these 5, that's great. But what about the rest of them? Where do they fit in? How can they capitalize? And if they sit there waiting for a sponsor to call them, they're crazy. Especially you talk about a mid-market school, right? You talk about a women's sport, which is historically not as well sponsored as the men's sport. What do? Just sit there and say, oh, well, no, you don't relinquish your rights. There's nothing wrong with people creating their own product and having their teammates endorse it.
Correct.
It fits the rules. Why would you wait?
Yes.
Why would you wait for that soda pop to come to you when you can white label your own soda pop? And it can be Dr. J's soda pop, and I can go get 10 athletes that have nothing and give them an opportunity to start working toward developing what it is to endorse a brand. Why wouldn't we do that? And so I encourage a lot of people, smaller companies, give them an opportunity. I don't care if it's a small percentage of what a sale is for the product or airtime for a show, whatever it is. Give them an opportunity to start working through what it means to endorse a brand. Because sitting on the sidelines is not enough. But again, to the athletes, you don't have to wait. You 100% don't have to wait. Go make your product and endorse it.
I love that because as you were talking, I was thinking about the quarterback from University of Miami, excuse me, who's from the Houston area, De'Aaron King, and a rival quarterback at Florida State, started a business to help student athletes be able to take advantage and find opportunities for name, image, and likeness. And again, I thought that was ingenious. It's like not just getting a deal, but make sure other folks can get deals too. I thought that was ingenious. They created their own table.
That's what I'm saying. Look, it's the Wayans family, all over again. You've got a great product, which is your name, image, and likeness. What you waiting on? You don't have to wait. You don't have to jump up and down. Start creating. Go LLC yourself and start moving in the right direction. You got to think in business, but it's that wait and see approach that always fails for people. Those are the people who get fired. Those are the people who don't get hired. Those are the people who get left behind. Anybody, I don't care who they are, the Jeff Bezos of the world who want to go into space, it doesn't matter. They don't wait for their opportunity. They know where they'd like to go and they start making that path for themselves.
Absolutely. Again, Dr. J, I really appreciate you making the time to be with us today. Let's switch subjects real quick. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about the young lady, Sha'Carri Richardson, in the Olympics, and then there are others that have been affected by rulings. So there's a young lady bless her heart, she had a procedure. I'm not going to put her business out there. She had a procedure. She got the date off by a day, and she has been suspended for 5 years. There have been other athletes overseas, women athletes, that have higher levels of testosterone because nobody's body is exactly the same. So somebody's normal level for them is a different level for somebody else.
That's right.
What are your thoughts about individually Sha'Carri, and then collectively how it looks like some women are being treated in a very, very, very important sports and arena?
Okay, so number one, I'm a rules person. I'm a big time rules person. Now, if I see a rule needs to be changed, I'll work to change it. But it's still, you have to acknowledge that there's rules. So there were rules against marijuana. They existed. She understood the rules. She broke the rules. She accepted the penalty. I was at least glad. I was happy that she did that, because let's move on from the story. She's gonna be a phenom for us in the track world for a long time, right? Just the beginning, and it's a blip, and it's the Olympics. But Allison Felix, hello, like this doesn't have to be her only Olympics.
Right.
So we would have loved to see her because of what she did in the trials. The 30 days I thought was actually a pretty light suspension. I was glad to see it was just 30 days because things are changing with that particular drug in and of itself. But it is the rule. Like it's the rule, and the athletes are aware of it. Now, do I think women are more impacted by these rules? One could argue, but you have like a Maria Sharapova who had a longer sentence and it was cut short, and you wonder, well, what was that about? I don't know if it's a woman thing, to be honest with you, AJ. I think some of our rules are outdated. I think the timing, like a Mykell Phelps, when all the images came out and he was smoking something suspicious in a bong, and his suspension during his off season.
Right.
Which, if you're going to suspend and have something really disciplinary, it should be during competitive season.
Competitive season, right.
Not during an off season when you might have even been resting your body to begin with. So you're like, okay, so that's not really a deterrent. You know what I mean? And so, I will say some of those things are suspicious, but the equity in athleticism has always been questionable. And I think they follow the rules very well for women. They follow the rules very well. They have no problem seeing the black and white of the rules. But with men, again, there are a lot of examples where maybe the length of the suspension was for the same offense, looked a little different, male or female. But I hate the, going to your point on the testosterone, that bothers me so much, because it gets into the whole, transgender, trans athlete conversation. And it's just really, it's a tough conversation to have, because I would love every person to be in sports. I really think sports just create something special in each person, just competitive spirit, no matter what. Like you and I can play flag football, even at the age we are, because we're competitive. We might not run as fast, but we can still do some things. I think everybody should be in sports. But to say the categories of where you should be and how you should be, and it's not fair. And I mean, some people are taking it to a level that makes me sad, because it's slowing down the excitement of what it is to participate in sports. And I don't think anyone should be banned from sport. If they're on drugs, different story, right? They have some enhancing drug, but no one should be banned. But we've got to figure it out. I don't have the solution. I've talked about this so much, especially with trans athletes, or just you naturally born with a higher level of testosterone. And so so where's my place in sports? If something like that, it's really difficult. Even when I was in gymnastics, I was as muscular as Simone Biles. I was just as little and just as muscular. And people ask my parents all the time, what do you give her? And my parents were so stunned, because it's like, what are you, like, I didn't even take Flintstone chewables, like at that point. Like I took nothing. I was eating okra, pork chops, and, sausage and gravy and rice. I was eating country food. That's kind of how I got there. There's such a question mark that gets placed on on people. Well, if you do well, why is it? It's like, what's wrong with hard work? What happened to that concept?
Correct.
And like Semenya, she has been just constantly pulled out of competitions, and it's like, guys, we've got to do better. The sport itself should be genderless. The idea of sports, we've got to figure out how we include everybody.
And that's the thing. There are so many different spaces. Sports is so broad and so wide breadth that there's so many different spaces that we don't have to make it as hard as we're making it. The two young ladies in question, these ladies were born as ladies. They lived their lives as ladies. And I'm not knocking the transgender, please. I have so now all of a sudden we're saying that their levels are too high. Now, mind you, we set the bar on where the levels go. It's not like it's this and it's scientifically proven that this. We've set the bar on what it should be. And now that these young ladies naturally fall outside of it, they're excluded and they're banned when all this time they have competed the exact same way.
Right. And Michael Phelps had some natural, was it with his lungs? Something natural with his lungs, so he was able to be underwater and hold his breath longer. Right, which provided an advantage. And so, but then, all right, so let's flip to me. Well, I was super short, and that's a real advantage in gymnastics. So so now you're going to exclude the really short? Like, at what point do we draw a line? It's like the line is squiggly, it's gray, it's dotted in some points. We let some people through, some people not. It can't be like that. Like I said, because if you start banning country girls from Louisiana that just like to eat okra before her competition, it's a problem. That's all I'm saying. I was going to the Olympics on some okra. That's all I know.
Dr. J, we appreciate you. Listen, one more thing. I had I made the mistake of looking at the actual diversity on the U.S. Olympic Committee. How do we get more diversity on those kind of governing bodies that make such strong and lasting decisions that affect people that look like you and me?
They're not recruiting. I have that answer really easily. They are not recruiting. So when I walked away from my sport, I'm knowledgeable. I got impacted because of my color on scores. We knew that hands down. But it was such a bad experience that I turned my back to being interested in being a judge, being interested in being a part of USA Gymnastics at a different non-athlete level. So the only way to get a person like me back would have been to recruit me. They're not recruiting, right? So the people that are there, you have to ask yourself, why are you there?
Right.
What made you come? It's a phenomenal role, but they've got to start recruiting. Much like corporate boards that look very homogenous right now. They've got to seek out the talent and the diversity that they need. They're not doing it. Yeah, and so when they are homogenous, then their decision making is going to be quite skewed.
Yeah. Again, I think that's a valid point. I even take it down to the level of jury duty. There are people that brag about getting out of jury duty, but then complain about the outcomes and the decisions made by the juries that do sit. If you're not in that decision room, guess what? You can't be a part of the decision. So stop trying to always get out of it when there are other people that need you on it. So
absolutely.
But they're not going to recruit us.
If more people looked at it like that, we would have a different outcome.
Yeah.
If more people looked at it like, I have to be a part of this process, I have to be. It's not a matter of, well, I can choose not to be because I've got this nice job and so I don't really have to be. You have to choose to be to be able to create for the next generation. We're not doing that. We are not creating that reach from one generation to the next. And so it's like we start over. It's like we keep starting over. That's why these stories sound very familiar, don't they?
They do, right.
Year after year, they sound because we keep getting reset.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, real quick, let me hit the top of the hour. We are KYOK Conroe, Houston, AM 1140, 92.3 FM, streaming live on KYOKradio.org. I'm AJ Jones, and the views and the opinions on the show are solely those of the guests, the hosts, and the callers, and do not in any way reflect on our general manager, our front office, as well as our sponsors. So had to get that out while I'm here remotely up in the DFW. Dr. J, so again, one more change of pace, the NBA Finals.
Okay.
The NBA Finals. first of all, how surprised are you at the teams that you see in the NBA Finals, and how surprised are you about what we're seeing when you look at what Chris Paul has the chance to do, what Giannis Antetokounmpo, not on a super team, has a chance to do? What are your thoughts about that?
All right. So, okay, you're in Dallas right now. Is what you're saying, bro? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, okay. Now you know Liz, my daughter, is a MFFL, so Mavs fan for life. So obviously we wanted to see the Mavs in the finals. Now, when the finals were set, when the finals teams were set, I get an immediate text from my mom, who is like the super fan of every sport going. And she was so sad because she did not like the two teams in the finals. Now me, I'm like, the Suns are playing out of their mind. I think they should be there. Like if you're just looking at talent, I think they should be there. Now I predicted it would be the Nets, in the finals. I just felt like KD was going to be able to do it. Right. I just really, really did. But I see why they're not there. And so I was excited. We've got to have new blood in the finals.
Yeah, me too. And, I like that.
I know the Milwaukee Bucks is a smaller market. So I know from a TV standpoint, they would love to see LA and, somebody else in Brooklyn. Like that would have been the matchup that they would have liked to see from a television standpoint. But kids are buying jerseys. They're all on Twitter and Instagram. They are locked into talent, right? So I'm happy to see the two teams that are in there because they got in there for talent. Now, the Suns, I predicted, which I've already lost this prediction, we're going to sweep. I actually saw this as just a no-brainer. The way Devin Booker is playing right now, Chris Paul is locked in. He wants his championship and he deserves it, like so many others, right? But he deserves it. He's just been on the cusp so many different times. He deserves to have that championship, and he's playing out of his mind. But when Booker and Paul don't play their game, so will go the Suns, right? They go. Right. That's where the Suns go. And so it was a bad Game 3 was a bad shooting night. I actually had to be careful because back in 2006, when the Mavs went to the finals against the Miami Heat, the Mavs won the first two games convincingly. And I think I've told you before, in Dallas, we were putting out the parade route on the news after just game 2, okay? Game 2. They were putting every station was saying this is what the parade route, like we were winning, okay? Right. And so I caught myself at the start of game 3. I said, I might not want to be talking about the Suns are gonna just win because we are talking about Antetokounmpo, and his on the team. There's a really good nucleus there, right? Chris Middleton, there's some great people there. I just don't think they're going to have enough. I think the Suns they'll adjust. I'm sad to see that they're not playing until, Wednesday now?
Yeah. What is that about?
Right. So, that to me is a little shaky. And I say that because when you stay in the city for that long, there's all kinds of things that happens. Players will report they order room service. It doesn't come for 2-3 hours because they're in the opposing team city. And so it's just when things start knocking you out of your rhythm, and that's what it does when you're sitting for so many days at the opposing team spot, it may impact it. But Devin Booker, he's such a professional. I think they will bounce back. I actually think it's going to be a close game in game 4, but I think they'll bounce back. And I honestly don't believe that the Bucks will win another game.
Okay. So you
I think the Suns will win the next 2. Yep. I think they'll win game 4. They'll win game 5 at home, and the Sun and Phoenix will start celebrating. That's honestly what I think. I think it's going to happen. If you just look at, I'm a big person on basketball karma and the way things go. If you just look at the way Devin Booker himself has been evolving and developing with his crazy point games, and this is just to me feels like this is right now his time. Yep. And it feels like this is Chris Paul's time. And for whatever the reason, it was a bad shooting night, but everybody has a bad night. I think they will readjust. And hey, Giannis scored 13 free throws last night.
Who would have 13 for 17? Who would have thought that?
Who would have thought that? But I don't think that's going to keep up either.
Right. Yeah. That's got more chance to go the other way than the right way.
Absolutely.
Just real quick, Dr. J, you've been around the game for a long time, for multiple reasons. When you see a coach like Monty Williams, and I think he did a brilliant job in this. I heard a couple of folks kind of say, "Oh, he kind of got full of himself as a head coach." Like, well, y'all don't say that about Pop. Y'all don't say that about other folks. But anyway, for him to sit Devin down as early as he did, and then Ayton down, and then Chris Paul, and Bridges, and everybody, like, for a coach to say, "Hey, we're going to pull back on this one and get ready for the next one." What are your thoughts about that? Good coaching, bad coaching? What are your thoughts?
Very, very good coaching. Very good coaching. Look, this is not about the fans' entertainment, okay?
Yeah.
A fan goes to a game or turns the game on TV. You want to watch your favorite player play every minute, but that's not the reality of the business of the sport. There are 4 games to win, and they have a real chance to win 4 games in the series, but it's not going to be if some silly, if you get hurt. I go back to the days of the Pistons, of the bad boys and Pistons, and some of the Celtics and the dirty players that were there. Some bench players got sent in to put a hurting on some of the stars.
Right.
And you pray that that's not a part of the culture anymore, but I'm sure it is. And so, there are some individual players I can say, they might still have that mentality. So I would have pulled them out too and said, I want you to watch this and eat this up. If this makes you sick to your stomach, good. Because come game 4, I want you to channel all of that, because we don't want this to happen again. You've got to be here for your teammates. And in game 4, I thought it was a great decision. I really like Monty. I really like Monty. I've had a special place in my heart for him ever since his wife passed away, and I got a chance to kind of see him just rise to the challenge and continue to build his family and just continue in his career. So I thought that was a great decision.
Yeah, you and me both. I remember some of the coaches of old, when their starters would get down, they don't call timeouts. They're like, you're going to work your way. You got into this, you work your way out of it. And then if they didn't happen, they'll pull those starters out, put the reserves in. And if they get them back in the game, then great, let's give it another shot. But you know what? That's the mental gymnastics of coaching. And I think Monty Williams did a great job in it.
I think so too. Like I said, the fans don't like to see it. They want to see you in, but they don't understand all the dynamics that actually come to play. And you and I don't know what little injuries some of them may have that don't get reported, And so I think it's a smart move that if you can rest a star for when it really counts, one loss on a 7-game series doesn't count. Like I can say that. 3 losses don't count. It's the 4 wins that count. So you just got to work on those 4 wins.
Yep, that's it. Dr. J, do me a favor. Tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, and you got to be sure and tell Chris and Liz and Young King that I said, hello. He just celebrated his birthday as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so to find me, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. Jen, Jenn, and then Thibeaux, Thibeaux. So find me there. If you can't quite figure it out, go to AJ. AJ always tags me. You can catch up with me there. So let's get connected. JenniferThibeaux.com, Thibeaux.org. And Chris Dishman, find him too. He's doing great things. He's over at IMG Academy, and he's the defensive coordinator for the national team for IMG. So they just got, it looks like a pro team. I'll be honest with you. The way they execute at IMG Academy football it's pro level. It's Pepper Johnson is the head coach at IMG. You just couldn't ask for anything better for what they've got going on. And then Liz Smith, make sure you also go find her and follow her. So follow me, and I'll always put stuff out about her. But she's at University of the Pacific. I'm wearing my Pacific shirt. So make sure you find her, and she's a great endorser of products.
All right. I keep saying I got to put something out there so I can have some athletes do their name, image, and likeness with me. Yeah. So you've inspired me to do that. But again, tell all of them I said, hello, and I love y'all like family.
Thank you for doing
making the time. I really do.
Thank you for doing what you do. And I know I'm popping off, but I'm sure you've talked about it. Make sure you keep talking about fans being responsible and not throwing stuff at the players. Your ticket is a right to watch a game, not to participate. in any way.
And again, that's the thing, man. As fans, you are not entitled to some of the things that we see fans acting like that they're entitled to. So
Yeah.
I will definitely make sure we hammer that home.
Yes, good. Very good. Thank you, AJ. I appreciate you.
You enjoy Louisville, okay?
I sure will.
All right. Thanks,
All
y'all.
right.
Jennifer Thibeaux, appreciate her joining us here on the lunch break. She's doing great things. Y'all be sure and follow her. If you don't know how to reach her, you can always connect through me to her. But she and Chris and her daughter Liz at Pacific University are doing amazing, great things. So again, that's how we're doing it today on the lunch break. I'm not in studio, so we don't have our normal breaks to take. I will give you a sports update real quick. Milwaukee Bucks blasted the Phoenix Suns 120-100 to win Game 3 of the NBA Finals, thanks to Giannis Antetokounmpo going off. Second game, he had over 40 points and over 12 rebounds. This time, 41, 13, and 6. Only two people to do that: LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal. He's in rare company. Chris Paul, 19 points, 9 assists in the loss. Game 4 going to be Wednesday night at 8. I expect the Phoenix Suns to bounce back. In fact, if you look at what Phoenix has done in these playoffs, now I'm not just talking about in the finals. I'm talking about in the playoffs. Let me pull this up real quick. If you go to Phoenix Suns, if you look at their schedule, and again, I want to go back to last month in June in their series against the Clippers. They won game 1. They won game 2. They lost game 3, 106-92, but they bounced back with a tough win in game 4. And then they lost game 5. And then, of course, they won game 6. My point is, Phoenix throughout these playoffs, whenever they had a tough loss, guess what? They found a way to bounce back with a quality win. And that's what I expect Phoenix to do in this next round. All right, we packed in today. We just had Dr. J, Jennifer Thibeaux, joining us here on the show. Let's go ahead and roll with Ramos, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the DMV. What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Nice to meet you virtually, finally, face to face. I'm good. It's melting hot up here on the East Coast, but we're doing the best we can over here.
Well, you know what? I am so glad to have you. And you have an intro that you do on your show. Do me a favor. Go ahead and let us, our folks, hear how you come on your show, Rolling with Ramos.
Well, first of all, the intro is very good. And it also pays homage to my late father. So you're tuned in to your favorite, and I'm never lying when I say this, your favorite sports podcast, roaming the airwaves, Rolling with Ramos. I am the one that holds the last name Ramos. I would like to specifically thank my daddy for that one, Mike Ramos in heaven. What up, though?
I absolutely love that. I mean, seriously, I love the show, but I cannot tell you how many times I went back to the beginning of the show just to hear the intro.
I've never heard that before. That's amazing.
Hey, in this business, it's those hooks, it's those things that is totally different from anything else that you would get anywhere else. And you got it. Whatever you do, don't ever change that.
Thank you so much.
So first of all, tell everybody a little bit about you, because, I got a chance to meet you through social media. Yes. You and I have a whole lot of friends in common. I believe you're part of the National Association of Black Journalists, as I am, and we're going to have our first in-person conference next year in Vegas. I hope to get a chance to meet you there.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about you and how you got started in this business.
Well, I've always known luckily, Kobe Bryant, my favorite player, best player in the world. If I knew that I would be able to go to LA and be able to cover his last Easter game, which was against the Wizards, if I would have known what I know now, I would have said so much more to him. I was able to interview him. That was great. And we shared a little sidebar about how people don't think he pumps his own gas. But if I would have known what I know now, I would have said so much more to him. But a while back, and don't quote me exactly, he sat down with Ahmad Rashad, and he said, a lot of people go their whole lives without knowing what drives them, without knowing their passion or being able to find one. and he was lucky enough to find his at a young age. And I think that resonates for me as well. I was watching the NBA on NBC, and we know the jingle and everything like that. And being 8, 9 years old, and everybody watching Michael Jordan in 96, 97. And it's crazy because in 96, 97, I thought I was seeing the bigger picture, where the bigger picture was way before me. And shout out to The Last Dance. But anyways, excuse me. But anyways, I was watching that, and I always loved sports, and I always wanted to play it. And my dad, he was very good in sports in his heyday, and he did a lot of good things with it. And they say that he used to hold me in his arms and watch the game, and you never know what's transpiring as that's going on. But his passion became mine, and I knew I never wanted to play it professionally or further, but I knew like talking about it and writing about it was something that invigorated me, that excited me. And I'm watching the NBA on NBC, and the camera goes to Hannah Storm. And ever since then, my life's been kind of sort of put together and put in place and complete. I've been able to go to school and graduate from HBCUs are not dead. I graduated from the Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, great institution. And I was able to, parlay that into getting my degree in broadcast journalism. I've been able to do sideline for my radio station at my alma mater, and then that turned into Heritage Sports Radio Network, and then that turned into doing segments on WAA. People allowed me to have 30 minutes to talk about sports. And then a group of friends of mine had a show called The Flex Zone, and I was the host of that. And then eventually I wanted to branch out on my own. So Rolling With Ramos started off as a segment, and then it evolved into a show. It's 4 years old now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm waiting for my co-host, the great Tristan Morris. He's awesome. I know everybody sees me, but I speak French because we work very hard, and he does so much for the show. He's on paternity leave right now, so when he comes back, we'll be back on track. I know I could have did it by myself, but I didn't want to do it by myself. I want to do it with my partner. And I also have a clothing line in conjunction with that, Rolling With Ramos Apparel. We sell Rolling With Ramos stuff, and there's a picture. I don't know if you guys can see it. Here we go. There we go.
Yeah,
I actually have it on right now. That's it. Rolling With Ramos is actually a picture of my father in his old playing days in his hometown of Bridgeport, Connecticut. So when you roll with Ramos, you roll with a Ramos or two. And so it makes a lot of sense. And, just trying to continue to innovate myself. And I'm in the process of rebranding and trying to continue to get my name out there and push my brand. And I know everybody is used to what they see on TV. They only give us women, and they only give us Black women this much room. But at the same time, there's so many more of us out here, and us sports chicks that really want to bring you sports. And I'm very grateful that people listen to the show and watch the show, because it's really the ability for people to see sports through my eyes. And I'm just honored that that people have been receptive to it, that I've been able to build an audience. And hopefully one day this could be the breadwinner, and it could be something that takes me to the next level and to the next platform. But in the meantime, I've been tremendously blessed to be able to do what I love to do. I work full time overnight at Fox 45, which is a local television station here. I work in Master Control and freelance in so many other places. I got like 4 or 5 jobs, man.
But you know what? People don't understand that we have those situations. They see us on this show, but they don't realize I go do sports on 10 other radio stations. Literally, I'm the sports director for 10 different radio stations. And they see me on this. It's like, oh, you're doing your little podcast. First of all, it's a commercial radio station. Nothing wrong with podcasts, but listen, I got sponsors, I got program directors, I got general managers, I got salespeople, I got talent that I got to make sure, we're doing the right thing. And people don't see what we kind of do behind the scenes to make what we do in front of the scenes look so easy. Talk about that journey for yourself, especially, being recently out of school and trying to make it happen for yourself.
Well, I've been out of school. The interesting thing about it is I graduated 2010. I know I may not look it, but I'm 32. So I've been at this for a minute. And freelancing, doing stuff for free. I ended up being able to get a freelancing gig covering the Washington Wizards for a local television station in outside of in PG County, outside of DC, and that put me in some good areas. And I was working at hotel jobs while I was trying to pursue this, and finally I got let go from one of my hotel jobs, and it was time to do this. It was a lot of peaks and valleys, and within losing my job in 3 months, I was able to get 2 part-times, one as a production assistant and one as a board op. But at the same time, I've loved this industry so much that people want that instant gratification and that instant money and that instant thing. It took me almost maybe 7 years to get to where I am now, but I'm still trying to elevate myself, and I'm still trying to grow. And you have friends in this industry, and you love to see them propel, and you love to see what they do, and you are happy for their success, but you're waiting for that one shot too to show what you got. So and this is all I've ever wanted to do with my life. I think you haven't even known me that long, but if I told you tomorrow that I wanted to leave this and go be a nurse, you probably look at me like, really, Mykell, is this what you want to do?
Especially, like you said, especially just from what I've seen from you from afar, because I've following you on YouTube and different things that I've seen you do. And it's just like, you're talented, B, you're gifted, and C, you're passionate. I mean, you're really good at what you do. So to see you go do something else would be like, what in the world? You okay? Look, sis, let's talk. You know what I mean? So,
yes.
We got Mykell Ramos. She's the host of Rolling with Ramos on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK, all new 92.3 FM, streaming live on KYOKradio.org. Let me ask you this, just based on what we just talked about. When you see the situation going on with Maria Taylor and Rachel Nichols, from your perspective, how's that make you feel? What are your thoughts about it?
Well, Rachel Nichols is from the DMV, so and loving her, knowing she's from Potomac in Maryland, knowing where I'm from, kind of, it's like, damn, did you have to say that? On one end, I knew her frustrations, and I caught what she was trying to say. She was basically saying, dang, I've worked so hard, and here I am in this position. But the thing about it is, at first, I didn't look at it as a race issue. I looked at it as a gender issue. When you're in this industry, this is male-dominated field, quote unquote, and you're walking into the male's den, you're walking into the lion's den, and you have to, as a woman in general, and this has nothing to do with race, but as a woman in general, you have to prove your stake in this. You have to prove that you're able to stay this. I'll never forget one time I was in an NABJ meeting, and I had to been about 13, 14 years old, and I was trying to get my bearings there. And I was meeting with a lot of journalists, and I was in a meeting one time, and I stood up and asked a question to one of the journalism professors at the University of Minnesota. It was her and another guy, that they were both professors there. And I asked her how she went about being a journalist and being a woman in this industry. And I told them I wanted to do sports and this and that. And before she could even answer my question, her male counterpart asked me what was a triple-double. And I had to explain what was a triple-double. And the crowd goes wild. Everybody starts clapping their hands. But that's what I had to do in order to prove that question I could have had an answer. And us as women, we are trying to hold on and say we belong here. It's like sports is a man's world, but it's nothing without a woman's heart. If I can direct the words of James Brown's words, it's nothing without us. But at the same time, we have to work so hard at it. And to a degree, not only are you trying to come in there showing that you belong, but also you're showing that you belong with the your other female counterparts. So it's like, dang, it's your gender that's holding you back, because you know how it feels to be a woman in this industry. So you and Maria Taylor at this junction should be more together than you are. You're mad at her success. But really, it was like our own kind was knocking I felt like our own kind was knocking us down. I was being knocked down by my own female counterpart. Now, what she did say, ESPN has not been the greatest as far as gender. It hasn't been the best. A lot of people say it hasn't been the best. And when it's come to racial issues. But at the same time, it sucked for her to say that.
Yeah.
Because Maria Taylor has worked just as hard, if not harder. And we've seen what she's done with the Big Ten. We've seen all the work that she's done. My only thing is that, you know, her being taken off of doing the NBA finals, she can still do the jump. She still has other things. And of course, there's going to be so much internal backlash that she has to face. My only thing is, now that they've elevated Malika Andrews, who I've also been able to meet through the NABJ circuit, and she worked so very hard as well. I don't want her to be looked at as someone that got an opportunity based on controversy.
Correct.
Because she's good as hell.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it sucks that this had to happen to propel two Black women and women as a whole. I just hope that when you look at the body of work that these two women have done and the body of work, there was this thing trending on Twitter where everybody was hashtagging and adding all the women in sports, because now it's the point of that we belong at the table. And now we not only have men that can say these things, we also know that there's a woman that has said this. And Rachel Nichols, a lot of people would like to say that she wasn't let go because of what she said about Maria. That was the public opinion of the backlash. She was let go because of what she was saying about ESPN. Because really, realistically speaking, all she was saying was, I've worked so hard as a woman in this thing. I want more. How come they get more? But you can't do that. You can't really do that. And it sucks because the camaraderie is just off. And I just hope us as women, especially those that want to be in sports, I just hope that we understand that in the event, your success is mine. I'm just waiting to get next to you. I hope that I could sit next to the table and say, hey, sis, what's up? Hey, girl, what's up? I think it was a very unfortunate situation, and I wish that it did not have to transpire how it did. But I also want everybody to take these Black women for what they do and the work that they've done, and not just the opportunities they're getting based off of public opinion and based off of controversy.
Yeah. We got Mykell Ramos joining. Ramos, I'm sorry, and please forgive me.
It depends on what border you're on, whatever you want to do, man. Ramos. I'm your Ramos, I
appreciate you making the time to join us today. I think what you just said was so profound, because it doesn't have to be along. It doesn't have to be along gender or race lines. Sometimes it's just the right thing to do. The right thing is not to tear somebody else down to make yourself look better. The right thing is to talk about what you do, what you feel like you can do, and sell yourself, as opposed to standing on the neck or the head of somebody else to make yourself look better. One of the reasons why I wanted you to tell everybody, who you are and what you've done, was so A, they could get to know you, but B, they can start to see there are a lot of people working really hard, doing whatever they can do to build those skills and those talents and those abilities, and working their way up, not cutting corners, not doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing to work their way up. You are truly one of those.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the journey, but it's also been a hard journey. The broadcast journalism, the journalism field isn't for the weak. And there's times where I've sat around like, what am I doing? Because, I talk to my mother all the time, and she's like, and although she's very happy about what I'm doing and the success that I have, the struggle behind it, she'll be like, why don't you want to go back to school? And I'm like, well, the stuff that I could go back to school to do, I'm already out here in the field doing it, because it's about your experience and who you know and what you want to do. And I'm continuously looking to elevate and propel myself, and wanting that shot. And I'm glad that I've been able to stick with it and stick with it with ideology of keeping my passion for it. And realizing that when I'm in a locker room, or when I'm doing my show, or when I'm wherever meeting whoever, I don't have to be here. I try to brand the show and brand myself as, those same conversations of who needed who more, Shaq or Kobe. I still have those with my friends sitting on the couch. And I never want to forget about being that little girl sitting in front of the TV and just wanting to watch basketball, wanting to watch football. And once I forget that internal buzz, then I guess that's when it's a wrap for me. But I haven't lost my spark and my way of the world and way of life for this. And now it's even more prevalent because it's my legacy and it's someone else's legacy that I'm carrying with me. And I'm just forever continuously trying to tell myself that I'm grateful and I love to do this. So
yeah, I appreciate you. One of the things that I've been able to ascertain from watching your clips is that I had a group of filmmakers, writers, producers, and what have you on my Freestyle Friday. You have an eye. You have an eye to see some things in a game or an athlete or a story that you're talking about where you literally tell another narrative to the story that's just not, really written on page 1 or page 2 or page 3. So you add value to the story. Where did that get developed for you, and how do you hone in on that so it becomes, a constant part of who you are?
I don't know. Like I said, it's the ability to see sports through my eyes. And sports through my eyes is in your face. It's fun. It's brash. It's witty. It's this. How did we get here from here? And I don't think people understand the humanistic aspect of sports. I think people try to separate it. And 4-5 definitely tried to do his best to try to separate sports from society, but sports and society go hand in hand. And those same conversations that we have, athletes are human too. Just like Sha'Carri Richardson said, I'm human. I can just run faster than you.
Right.
And that's all it is. I can just do something better than you. I can't get out here and run how she runs. I can't play basketball like LeBron James. But I think the turn of the world, little girls and little boys aren't growing up wanting to be doctors or lawyers anymore. Granted, they are, but they also are growing up wanting to be LeBron. They're growing up wanting to. They grew up loving Kobe. They're growing up wanting to see the Shaqs of the world, and there's nothing wrong with that. They want to be sports directors. They want to be coaches. There's sports and the humanistic aspect that comes with it and what it shares with the world. Your most triumph of tragedy, your most triumph of stories, and your most tragedy of stories come from sports. You can go from Ray Rice to Leah Steele in 2 seconds. There's just so much that you can find in sports, and it really should get more. More grace than it does. But all I do is try to bring out that point and to bring out the realness of the human that I am. And I do my best to lay it all on the line. Sometimes I feel like I'm too personal, but
it's refreshing. It really is. It's refreshing because it literally causes people to engage with you. I could see, I know as a new viewer, as a new follower, I feel like I know you because of how personal and how intimate and how you've shown me something personal and intimate about, what you're talking about and who you're covering. I think that's a gift. I really think that's phenomenal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We do our best, and the banter that me and Tristan have, he's been my good friend for years, and his knowledge base throws me out the water sometimes. If I don't have it, he has it. And that's another thing with sports. I think people think that when you're a journalist, you know everything, and I don't know it all. There's some sports that I'm out of the loop on, and I got to do my research, and sometimes you don't want to fake it, but sometimes you got to show that at least you can stand there, and you just out here trying to do your best,
Mykell Ramos, Rolling with Ramos, joining us here on the lunch break. Oh my goodness, Monday. Give me an oh my goodness moment. Who was that person that you interviewed or you got a chance to meet that just had you kind of slide out of your journalistic role and you were like fanning on 100? Who was that for you over your career?
Oh man, the Black Mamba. I grew up a big Kobe fan. My greatest journalistic endeavors before I even know I was being a journalist came from defending Kobe Bryant. So he had me out here veins popping, yelling. I don't know, how dare you? Don't talk about Kobe like that. And it sucks because nobody appreciated him until he left, and that's the guy, and that was one guy. But I'm standing there in LA, everybody's trying to get, and I didn't know at the time that was his last interview in front of his locker. But I'm standing there, everybody's trying to get their positions, we're bumping into each other, and when I'm getting the interview, I'm not even standing up. I'm bending down, and he comes up. All you see is this long sleeves. He's tall as you don't know what, and everybody parts like the Red Sea and comes back. And it's like, for a moment, I had to stop. Everything inside of me was doing this, and but everything outside of me was doing this. What we're doing now, and it was just a moment. Like I said, if I know what I know now, I would have said something totally more profound, asked a lot of more questions, talked to a little bit more. Another person I'm a big fan of, I'm a big Carmelo Anthony fan, and it's nice to see the comeback he's been able to make. Stop telling people their careers is over.
Come on. I tell people all the time, stop retiring other people's careers. Yes, come on.
It ain't over till the fat lady sings and you ain't the fat lady. Stop doing it.
Yep.
You can't tell somebody when they're done. And this man sat out. He continued to prepare. And I don't know what Damian Lillard's going to do in Portland. But if anything, the person that they said that Carmelo couldn't be, he has become a timeless gem in this field. USA Basketball, you could have used him. I wonder what you're thinking now, as you tried to do what you wanted to do, and even y'all wouldn't take him. How dare you? But anyways, the interesting thing about Carmelo is when I was a couple years out of school working at the Hilton, and he was staying there, and I talked to him. I told him what I wanted to do. He probably doesn't remember this, but I talked to him, told him what I wanted to do. I was delivering room service to him, and it was you never know who you're going to meet when that door opens. And then a couple of years later, my first actual covering of a game, the Washington Wizards used to be the Baltimore Bullets. Mm-hmm. So every year they do a Charm City Classic where they come and do a game, a preseason game at the Royal Farms Arena at the arena here in Baltimore. And someone recommended me to do it because I was in town. And at the time, the storyline was him being a Knick and the hometown boy was coming back in town and everybody was excited. And I was able to interview him, and he said he remembered me. I don't care if he was lying or not. But
we're human too.
Yeah, thank you, Mello, for making my fairy tale. But it was nice to see that conjunction come together and go from this person here at this part of my life to here, and to really be able to say to myself, I can do this, and this is where it's at, and so those are the moments that had me inside like this. But every interview I do, everybody I speak to, I'm always like this. I'm I know that the exterior probably doesn't define that and show that, but I'm so nervous all the time. All I want to do is do a good job, and I meet people, and as a journalist, they tell you that you're just supposed to be this stoic person that sits there with the mic. I ask you the question. I talk to you. We have a vibe. But at the same time, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
And I have no problem showing that I appreciate the hell out of your work. And I hope when you leave here that you appreciate mine,
Yeah.
So
I'm
always, being able to have a show and trying to get those particular names on that, Jamil Hill being on was big, and
that was huge. I saw that and I was like, this young lady here is somebody special, because Jamel don't just do things to anybody. And I don't say that negatively. She shouldn't. But that was a very good segment that you had with her. How did that come about?
Well, National Association of Black Journalists, I've known Jamel for years. She's been very good to me. I reach out to her and check in with her sometimes. And I said, I finally threw it out there and said, hey, we doing the first year of the show, the first show of the year, and I would love to have you on. And she said, okay. And sometimes it's that simple. You build a rapport with people. I freelance at NBC Sports Washington. I did when I get a chance. Hopefully I'm able to get back in there. And the ironic thing about it is I asked somebody else to ask Santana Moss to be on my show for me. Someone that actually was on my show before. And they told me that he couldn't do it, that he wouldn't do it because of him doing his own show and all these different parameters. And, I'm there at the studio and I'm micing them up and I'm counting them in because I was a production assistant that day. And I asked him to be on and he gave me his personal number. And he said, sure, if I would have took that no, I wouldn't have never known, So my goal is to continuously try to propel my guests and have more important guests. I know people don't think podcast is a regular entity, but we can talk too,
Yeah, and again, I want to highlight that because again, podcasting is something that I've been in radio probably since before you were born. My first job in radio was in 1982, and podcasting was something that many people in the industry back in traditional terrestrial radio thought would never happen. It is here. It is legit. It's real. It is as real as anything else. And I think it's, again, back to that we talked about, not just, what do you bring to the table, but making your own table. Let me tell you something. What you do and what others do is making your own table, and it is as good as anything else. And I'm proud of it, man. It takes a lot of faith to step out there like that and say, hey, here I am, come listen to me. And then you look up and you got 2 million viewers, or you got 2 million downloads, or you name it.
I'm hoping to get there.
Hey, listen,
sometimes
you're on your way.
Sometimes I look at the numbers and I'm like, come on. But we've developed a following, but podcasting is so it speaks to this generation. Not to mention, I can be a multimedia journalist. I can do it all. I can write. Mm-hmm. I can sit here. You can see me. You mm-hmm. can see my emotions, and you can speak. And for a long time, I thought that I wanted to be in front of the camera, which I do. I mean, this face belongs, But I want to be. I thought that I wanted to just be in front of the camera, but when I was doing CIAA tournaments and doing MEAC tournaments and learning from the guys on Heritage Sports Radio Network, and radio became a big thing for me because you create the narrative without people seeing it. And I would be in arenas and someone used to tell me a technique because there's a difference between saying hi and hi. I used to be mm-hmm. smiling while I'm telling people like, mm-hmm. what's wrong with her? But I'm talking to somebody on air, So, radio and the transgressions. And even so now with the StreamYards and the Zoom, I know that the pandemic hurt a lot of people, but the pandemic also changed the stratosphere of how we were able to connect and how we were able to broadcast, because now you have no excuse because you can get on this phone. I'm on my phone with a tripod right now in my home. Mm-hmm. That's as simple as it is. I don't have nothing crazy behind me. I don't have nothing. I'm just here sitting talking to you. You don't have to be in the studio anymore.
Right.
To bring the news or give it.
I'm in the lobby of a hotel, unable to check in, and I'm broadcasting live on my show. We're on AM 1140 in Houston, 92.3 in Houston, and we're streaming all around the world on the internet and on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We didn't see that coming. I'm just going to be very real. We didn't see that coming in 1982. We didn't see it coming in 92. We didn't see it coming in 02. It's here now, and you got to embrace it. And I encourage everyone, if you've got the biggest signal in your town, make sure you got internet going as well. Make sure you got social media going well, because you never know who's going to tune in and what they're going to turn into for you on your show.
Yeah, I just hope that the next goal is to try to. You talk about sponsors. I would love to get a sponsor for Rolling Ramos. I would love to get it on a network, and a real network where it could thrive and be put on a platform. It's just so many things that I want to do with it. I mean, the Breakfast Club can't be the only one. And
no, you're right. You're right.
I would love to bring Rolling with Ramos and into homes, and like I said, for people to see sports through my eyes, for people to see my co-host and what he brings to the table, and for both of us to be able to make a living, and a true living, off of this. And sports is sports is great. I'm so happy with the path that I chose in life. And does it get discouraging? Yes, but
Sure. Yep.
you work as hard as you can, and sometimes the bigger issue is what you put on yourself, because it's interesting sitting here talking to you and the thoughts that I've had today about rebranding and trying to find a way to do one job, and the money that I'm making is so much that's going on in my life. And here you are saying, I enjoy it all. I don't know what's going on, but it's good what I'm seeing. So, you never know how people see you and view you, and you're in your own personal shambles. So this is cool.
Yeah, no, I do. I really, really respect you. Again, I did think you were a lot younger. I thought you came out of school like a couple years ago. And like you said, 2010.
Well, we're going to say a couple of years, We're going to say a couple of years. And
you look good.
God,
you look good. You look good.
If everybody, thank God that homecoming is coming back, and I can be 20-something again, because we missed a couple homecomings, but it's going to be great to get back on that yard this fall. And I know every HBCU is going to be the biggest parties ever imagined,
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of, I mean, obviously there have been some changes to the landscape as North Carolina A&T has left the MEAC. They're going over to the Big South. You got Bethune-Cookman and FAMU coming over to the SWAC, and now the SWAC is looking like a power conference. So what are your thoughts about some of the changes you've seen, this past offseason and what's going to happen this season coming up?
Well, A&T, when you look in the MEAC, they were in a place above everybody else in their
own.
Really
were. They really were.
It was them and everybody else. And I'm saying that even being a Morgan grad and wanting them to do better. So, at this point in time, they needed a challenge. The SWAC, the talent that's down south is crazy. And the beautiful thing about it is I just hope that what they're seeing in Jackson State and what they're seeing from Primetime isn't the last person that comes and does this.
Right.
Because then we can elevate a little bit more. Maybe we can get some of these black boys to stay home and go and not just look at the facilities that's at Alabama, and maybe want to go to a Southern or go to a FAMU where you can get a great education, but you can also play some quality football.
Correct.
But we also have to go out there and win. We also have to show them our stake. I hate those type of things where we go play a team like Rutgers and, we get trashed to a degree, but we just did it for the money and the notoriety. I know I want us to be out there winning, and these top tier talents wanted to do that. And I think with the pandemic and being able to have time to deal with Black Lives Matter and everything that was going on in this country, it gave the landscape of our kind more of a platform. So now you got LeBron James' son. Before, he probably wasn't thinking about HBCU. Now, look, he may be thinking about it. So at least the thought, because before the thought wasn't even a primary situation,
Yeah. Yep. I love to see what Chris Paul is doing, shining, a lot of light on HBCUs. That's amazing. And then, again, you talk about prime time. Eddie George coming to Tennessee State. Reggie Theus taking a job at an HBCU, and others.
Jacoby Jones and being the tight end coach here. So they're coming.
Yeah. And the thing about it, though, there have been some quality coaches that have been there the whole time. They might not have been former NFL players, but, Coach Fobbs was one that you weren't going to just run through Southern through Grambling and not know you were in a ball game. And then, of course, coach at NC, North Carolina A&T, tell them to bring me my money.
Yes.
I want more of those coaches to be able to have those experiences. And like you said, it's a great experience at HBCUs. It's not a step down. It's a good step.
Yes, because you can go to a PWI and they could say that you get a better education, or you can say certain things. But at the same time, there's nothing like the home experience. And that's what being around your kind, it always feels like home.
Yeah.
And that's what these homecomings and going to an HBCU feels. Coach Sam Brand, I got a chance to speak to him from Poly, and he was saying that, and we were talking some time back during the pandemic, he was like, even the experience of homecoming and being on the yard, I want that for my kids, for them to see what being home and being totally engulfed in your culture feels like. Because, you go somewhere else and you might be, it's 3, 4, 5 of y'all out of 20, you know, whereas I can walk into a classroom and everybody looks like me. They're from different places, but they look like me, and they can understand what I'm going through. So,
yeah. Speaking of that, we got to get ready to wrap it up. But before we do, I got to get your thoughts on Sha'Carri and, you know, the situation that she had. My issue is not so much what happened, you know, with her choosing the method that she chose to handle her grief. It's the fact that she was offered some choices. If you don't go through the program, it's a 90-day suspension. If you do, it's 30 days. The fact that she still could have been eligible to run in the 4x100 relay, and the U.S. Olympic Committee made the decision not to invite her. And then I go and take a peek at the makeup of the U.S. Olympic Committee, and it is as non-diverse as anything else. What are your thoughts about that? What are your feelings?
well, first of all, like I said, my old man's been gone 2 years, and when you're in that part of this is a continuing thing, and when you're in that part of grief, there's nor liquor nor substance that can take you out of that mindset. You're trying your best to forget, but you can't. So I understood why she did what she did. At the end of the day, she did something that she knew could get her in trouble. So when you're talking to the older generation of this world, she broke a rule, she broke it, and she can't be a your mother says don't touch the stove. If you touch the stove, you can't go out and play. You touch the stove, you can't go out and play. You broke a rule. That's what happened. So she has to be held accountable for this, and she has to and she has done the best she could to show her own personal accountability. Because I think what people see outside the surface, they see the orange hair, they see the claws, they see her out here looking like FloJo, and they think that she's not professional, and they think that she's not aware. But this showed that she was. And she's been apologetically Black. She's been apologetically her, and it's such a tragedy, because trying to elude tragedy and triumph over it, she ended up still in tragedy. I'd be damned if I found out my biological mother died from a reporter. I didn't find it out from a family member. Like, people need to, and granted, we can talk about mental health and the practices everybody had, the circle that she had around her, and the people that she had, and the Olympics themselves, or what they did to come together to be there for her. None of this happened, but it sucks that she chose to dissect herself in taking weed. But what also is the interesting thing about this country is we're seeing is how minute they're making this, because it's just weed. A lot of people are saying it's not a performing enhancing drug, and this woman still went out there and ran the time that she ran. And the thing about it is, the advances that marijuana has made in this country to make it such a minimal thing, we are quickly learning that it's not the advances that have been made in other countries. Internationally, they are not thinking this. If it was banned, it was banned, and you tested positive for it, you weren't supposed to have it in your system. And that's and that's the only thing that sucks, because medical marijuana, a lot of athletes that said they come out and they smoke. And after this, it's like the ideology of just let her go. But it's also the premonition of a difference of a generation, because I'm a millennial. Look, me as a millennial, I'm like, well, it's just weed, and rules are meant, as a millennial, rules are meant to be bent and rules are meant to be broken. We have 30, 40, 50-year-old statues that came tumbling down because of Black Lives Matter and the ability to want to change, and this is the time is now. So you mean to tell me she can't run because she puffed a little puff? This is what we're doing. And then to add insult to injury, you said it would take her 30 days. You double restitutioned her and then said that she can't run again. But I also understand how unfair it would be to everybody else who did what they were supposed to do the right way. And I just hope that she continues to have this learning experience. I can't wait to see her in Paris. I hope she's still doing what she got to do in Paris. It just feels as though on one end, the rules are the rules. And it just sucks that this became such a huge thing. Right. And it's the rules are the rules. But at the same time, we also have to learn about evolutionalizing the way we look at sports and the way that Michael Phelps was seen smoking a bong after the Olympics. They didn't strip nothing away from him because it was already done. And
yeah, he was suspended during the offseason.
Yeah, he was suspended during the offseason, but that was it. We didn't hear. It wasn't like it was this big uproar and things of that nature.
What did he miss out on? He was suspended during the offseason. What did he miss out on?
And I know that racially in this country it's easy to cry wolf. I know a lot of people think that us as African Americans make everything about race and some things that you don't need to make so blown up about. But at the same time, it was like this girl was about to be the first American to win the 100 meters since I think it was Jackie Joyner, and but it came from another Black woman. So history was on the brink. You're walking into an Olympics where you're seeing Simone Biles, the other Simone that's in the pool. You're seeing Mayo. You're seeing Jordan realizing her gymnastics and realizing what she's capable of doing. Black women were coming to the Olympics and we was coming hard. Yeah. And in order to stop her, this is what you had to find. But she gave it to you. Because otherwise you wouldn't have found anything else if you were looking for anything else. And it just,
I live in a city where they have won a World Series after cheating, but they are the ones shouting the rules, the rules, the rules. Mykell Ramos, tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, and thank you, Queen, for being a part of the lunch break for Oh My Goodness Monday.
Oh, man, if you ever in Baltimore, you ever in D.C., have your friends call my friends. We got to get together, brother. Hopefully it doesn't take another year for me to run into you. But even after that, we got some sidebars. Pick up your phone, call a sister. But I appreciate you for letting me on, for allowing your platform to be able to be something that I could talk on. Make sure you roll with Ramos. You can follow me personally at Mykell Sade. That's MYKELLSADE. That is my real name, just like the singer, my first and my middle name. And you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow roll_with_Ramos_apparel. If you like our little shirt, you can see what we got going on and dress like me. You can follow Rolling With Ramos on Instagram. You can follow Roll With Ramos without the H, Rolling With Ramos on Twitter. I'm also on Twitter at Mykell S. Ramos. I'm on Facebook. We're on Facebook, Rolling With Ramos. I'm on Facebook as Mykell Ramos. My world is your world. Even if I have content coming out, talk to me. I like to talk to people. I like to meet new people. I hope that I see you guys on my platform, and I hope that you continue to roll with Ramos. For everybody that's been on, I would like to personally thank my co-host Tristan Morris. I hope I can be able to show him this so he can see this. And for everybody that's been on this train, who has been on this ride with me so far, I appreciate you. For those who haven't gotten on it, please do.
Let's jump on.
Interesting. I make it pretty interesting.
I'm gonna have to have you and Tristan back. I'm gonna have to have you back so he can show us his new bundle of love. And you and I are connected now. We family now, sis. So don't run, don't hide.
Home, literally. You know where the juice. You know where the glasses and the juice is. Get it yourself.
I love it. And we'll talk soon, though. Okay, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
All right, you too. I want to appreciate Mykell Ramos for joining us here on the show today. Again, she is phenomenal. Y'all be sure and follow her, she just asked. And you know me, I rock with good people, and she is definitely one of them. Also want to thank Dr. J, Jennifer Thibeaux, for joining us in the first hour. It's Oh My Goodness Monday, so got to roll. Donnie McClurkin up next with the Donnie McClurkin Show. He'll give you the best in gospel music, latest in the gospel music industry. Donnie does his thing every Monday through Friday from 2 to 3. As always, not this, definitely this. I love y'all. We'll talk to you tomorrow for Talk Your Team Tuesday. Y'all have a great one.